This is Sarah, and this was shot on an iPhone. This is also Sarah, and this was also shot on an iPhone. Which one would you prefer for your own self-taped audition? Stick around and I'll show you why these differences matter and how to achieve both looks on the same phone and to get the most out of either option. Matthew Cornwell here with Get Taped, which I co-own with my amazingly talented, beautiful wife and best friend, Brooke. Okay, most of you hated physics class in high school, and probably none of you went and got a master's degree in mechanical engineering like I did. Nerd alert. So the science of optics feels irrelevant to you, and rightfully so. But by not knowing how a camera works or how a lens works specifically, then it's safe to say that your relationship to that camera is probably lacking. Why does it even matter? Well, if you're an on-camera actor hoping to make a lifelong career in television, film, and commercials, then it stands to reason you should know something about how cameras work. You know, the very thing capturing your performance, the thing that can augment your performance, distort your performance, obscure it, manipulate it. So let's dive in, and I promise not to get nerdy. Let's look at two clips again, side by side. Sorry, it's me this time. What are you gonna do? Now, on this side, I look normal. In contrast, my facial features on this side are distorted like a funhouse mirror. Look at that forehead and how big my nose looks and how tiny my ears are in comparison to my nose. It's unfair. It's like some unkind caricature artist at a fair did my portrait. On top of that, every movement I make, forward and backward, is noticeable. It's even amplified by this wide-angle fisheye lens. Don't these movements look more normal and not so exaggerated? Huh? My forehead doesn't get huge. My nose is about the same size no matter how much I lean. What are the implications? Well, if your home setup is just like this, where your camera is on a tripod a couple feet away from your face, then being still in a private, vulnerable, dramatic scene becomes very hard. Because you might be the type of person that has a lot of natural physical energy. And like I said, it's going to get amplified. And that might be in complete opposition to the needs of the scene. So you might find yourself wanting to sit down using a camera that is this close to your face, because that's the only way you can get rid of all of that unfocused energy. Now, yes, having the lens this close to me might feel more intimate. And so it might feel like it's appropriate for certain types of scenes, especially very quiet dialogue scenes with one other person. But I don't know. The trade-off of having my features distorted so much and having my physicality exaggerated so much just doesn't feel like a good trade-off for most of the scenes that I'm auditioning for, especially if I want to enter the scene. You see how fast that felt when I entered? See what it looks like when the lens is 8 feet away and how it feels normal when I enter. When I walk into the scene on this lens, it feels a lot more normal. The pace is even. It doesn't get faster as I approach the camera, which might be much more appropriate for the scene, especially if I'm just trying to mosey into the space and not dart up to my mark. Even the slow mosey into the space onto my mark is exaggerated so much by this lens, and that might not be the tone of my character or of the scene. And this is subtle, but it's important. Now, on the flip side, if the scene is calling for some physical comedy, then this wide-angle lens can actually serve to help or augment my performance by exaggerating all of those movements. Now, let's take an example. Instead of a real commercial, I wanted to interrupt this broadcast to give you a call to action. Brooke and I are launching our very own sketch comedy show, The Brooke and Matt Show, in July of 2025, right here on YouTube. Sounds like a crazy venture, right? Well, it's not crazy if you join us. Head on over to the new channel where we're putting up some shorter content as we lead up to the big reveal of episode 1 in July of 2025. Oh, and don't forget to subscribe while you're there. Thanks. Let's say your audition scene is actually supposed to be a Zoom call in the story, and so casting wants you to look directly into the lens for your audition. Maybe in the scene they're playing on the fact that in 2025 people still don't know how to unmute. Well, using this close-up lens is not only realistic, but as I'm getting frustrated on the Zoom call of either being the one looking for the mute or unmute, or maybe I'm just another person on the Zoom call who is frustrated that they can't figure it out, that comedy can be augmented by actually using the lens that is so close to me. In fact, in my recent episode of Will Trent that aired on ABC, For my last scene, they used a wide-angle lens for the sake of comedy. Now, it also made sense because I was staring at a computer screen, so the camera was sort of the point of view of the computer looking back at me. But it was so perfect for the scene because I was essentially being caught in the act for something that I wasn't supposed to be doing. And speaking of eye lines, the wide-angle lens can get you into trouble if you don't understand the implications of it. This is me looking directly at the lens on my iPhone, and this is me looking at myself in the middle of the screen. That's about a 2-inch gap between those two spots, going back and forth. So when you're reading taping instructions from the casting director about eye lines, and they might say, please don't ever look more than 6 inches away from the camera to either side, you have to put that into the context of what type of camera lens are you using. Because here on the iPhone, if I go 6 inches away from the phone, that is pretty far, right? And so if I start to go further, that just doesn't make any sense. Now, this is me looking into the lens from about 6 feet away. And this is me looking at the center of the phone, which is 1.5 inches to the side. Doesn't look nearly as exaggerated, does it? Because at this distance of 6 to 8 feet, 6 inches doesn't look that bad. In fact, that's a perfect place for where my reader could stand. In fact, I could get away with 3 feet away from the camera lens, and it doesn't look nearly as exaggerated as when the camera is only 2 feet from my face. So that right there should help you be more discerning when you read taping instructions from a casting director who has to write those instructions for all actors, thinking about the most common setup, which is going to be that camera at 2 feet away from your face. You see where I'm headed with all of this? If you still think all of this is trivial, then please drop a comment below. Let's have a discussion about it. Because every actor that I've ever met is always looking for something, a way of getting a leg up or improving their auditions so they can stand out amongst the crowd. Now, I'm not saying these concepts will make you stand out amongst your peers. In fact, it's kind of the opposite. It'll prevent you from standing out in a bad way. I'm simply helping you to optimize the look of your auditions, given the equipment that you have, so that your work, the craft that you've worked so hard on, can shine through. Look, if this stuff didn't matter at all, then casting directors wouldn't need to give us 3 pages of taping instructions, would they? It matters. But again, I don't want you stressing about this. I'm just trying to foster your curiosity. So if you're taping at home, let this be an invitation to test out potential new setups based on the needs of the audition. And speaking of, let's talk about the second part of this video, which is how to achieve these different looks. Well, the first one is obvious, the wide-angle lens, because anytime you're holding your phone out for a selfie, whether it's a photo or a video, you're using that wide-angle lens. And likely, if you have a similar setup to what I have right now, this is how you're doing all of your auditions, where you're about 2 feet from the camera lens. I use it for all of my YouTube videos because the exaggeration of my movement helps to give me more energy, because I'm actually a pretty low-key guy in real life, and so this helps make it a little bit more exciting for you to watch me. I hope. To achieve this second look, well, you have a couple options. You could just use a camcorder like we do for all of our auditions here at Get Taped, but that might be an added expense. So let's just assume that you don't have that disposable income and you just want to use your phone. If you have an iPhone with multiple lenses, then you can back the camera up on your tripod to about 6 feet or so, which is where this phone is right now, and use the 2x zoom to bring it back into a framing around this right here. You might have to pinch and zoom to perfect that framing, but it'll look good no matter what when you use that second lens. You also need to consider audio if you start moving your camera further away, because if you're using a cell phone where the camera and the microphone are all contained in the same device, then the further you put that phone away from you, the further your voice will sound in the finished audition. But before I get lost in the weeds about audio, I'm just going to refer you to my online downloadable course, Get Set Up, where I go through 3 different budget levels for your home self-tape setup and tell you the tips and tricks on the type of equipment to buy, how to set it up, how to maximize your physical space for the best audition possible. But even if your camera doesn't have 2 or 3 lenses, never fear. There's still one last hack you can try. Back your phone up 5 or 6 feet, and you may need a helper to do this. Then pinch and zoom on the screen until the framing looks right. Or you can try shooting in 4K, because most phones nowadays can record in 4K. And then after the fact, when you're editing, you should be able to crop and zoom and perfect that frame, and it should look decent quality, even though you are losing pixels as you crop the image. Try that, see if it works. Side note, there is zero reason for you to be uploading your auditions in 4K, especially if you're uploading to Actors Access. That website is going to compress your file anyway, and so our recommendation is to only export your auditions at standard HD, whether that's 720 or 1080p. And that way, when it gets uploaded and compressed on Actors Access or any other website, it doesn't actually lose quality and look worse. Okay, so hopefully this short tutorial on camera lenses has helped you to develop a new or better relationship to the camera lens. And if you're still feeling a little resentment as an actor that you even have to worry about this, I get it. You just want to act. But I have a hard truth for you. If truly all you want to do is act, then there are countless street corners waiting for you. Seriously, if all you want to do is perform, become a busker, a street performer. You don't need a camera, and you certainly don't need permission from a casting director, a producer, a director, a studio, a network, etc. But if you do want a lifelong career in the film and television industry, then you have to adapt as this industry changes. Sorry. Just like a surgeon has to learn about the human body, you have to learn about your medium, which is the camera. And this should be fun, in my opinion. Learning this stuff elevates your understanding of how Hollywood movies are made, which ultimately can give you more ideas about how to own your audition space. So in conclusion, I'm simply trying to empower you with this knowledge. Now, if you have questions or comments, please drop them below. That's it for now. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you on set.